We were the first race to contact humanity, a fact they have never forgotten. Early human-Stragi relations were fairly normal for non-overly violent races. There were the typical shocks of first contact, the drawing of treaties to recognize sovereignty and establish methods for communication and trade. And some goodwill information on the state of the galaxy, provided to a young race which seemed eager to impress, and possessing a surprising zeal for learning about us and our culture. The first truly bizarre proposal to come from them was for the formation of a joint colony on a world along the primary trade lane we had established to them. Being relatively similar to us in physiology and climatic preferences made this possible. But to our knowledge, such a thing had never been tried before. Cohabitated space stations were not unheard of, particularly at trading and diplomatic hubs. Yet to construct an entire colony to share with another race, it was unthinkable. We had no problem with them colonizing and terraforming the world, but we informed them we would not be joining them upon it. We were quite shocked when they went ahead and established a climate and facilities which would suit both our species, when they could easily have lived in greater comfort, optimizing for themselves. At the humans' request, and after no small degree of deliberation, we made it known to our citizenry that they were welcome upon the world. As we expected, not but a very few accepted, and those that did were largely the impoverished or socially outcast. By now, the humans had met several other neighbor races and apparently made similar strange commingling offers to them. Indeed, I recall in my youth, a Florian representative half-suspiciously remarking to me how strange our pet species were. I suspect he was prodding for some response. Several species governments were indeed grumbling that the human requests were vague attempts at espionage. It went unsaid, yet implied that they were doing so under Stragi direction. When the human ambassadors first came to us with their ultimate proposal, we simply failed to grasp the concept. We did not even have a word for alliance at the time. We knew of mutual defense agreements, but such things were generally regarded as foolish pomp one might use as a feeble attempt to dissuade a common enemy. An agreement of that nature was fundamentally flawed. Who would risk their own forces when an enemy was apparent? Furthermore, what can the attacked party possibly do to enforce the agreement? Open another war while under attack? Still, it did not hurt us to agree to it, and it seemed to make them happy. We even managed to leverage it into access to certain mineral rights in what was by then considered human-controlled space. Two other of our neighbors were apparently of a similar mind, and the humans were ecstatic. They even built a grand little station they dubbed Atrium for us all to meet and coordinate. I was in the later stages of my working life at the time and was assigned to this little project with the understanding I would keep the humans happy, perhaps snag a few concessions out of them, and retire to my reproductive stage in due order. I should mention that by this point, the humans were no longer considered quite so quaint as they had once been. While still considerably behind most of galactic community technologically, their progress had been astoundingly rapid. This was made more impressive by their fleetingly short lifespans. A human then, even with their progress in medical technology, lived less than one cycle. It was generally considered that low lifespan organisms could not progress this rapidly due to the constant need for re-educating, and that much of their advances had been stolen. Personally though, I believe their progress has in fact been because of this rapid recycling of thoughts. Regardless, this positioning is what put me at the heart of the galaxy's first interspecies alliance, not that meant much at the time. Barely 2 cycles into my time at Atrium, the Sarnak War began. In the opening campaign, the Sarnaks pushed our Imperial Navy all the way back to Stragi, capturing 17 systems along the way. In a moment of panic and desperation for my people, I revealed this information to the Terran representative. Yes, I was the one who told them, not spies or some traitor. I did, in my previously empty role as the Stragi representative. Had command known at the time, I would likely have been exiled. the humans now knew we were weak. I still remember the look of shock and horror on the representative's face. He never once hesitated, none of them did. It was only then that I learned Atrium was not just a decorated habitat for diplomatic types, I had thought. I was taken to another portion of the station I had always assumed to be residential and brought before the most extensive command and control facility I have to this day ever seen. Every human fleet was patched in with additional capacity for Stragi and other member races, had any accepted their military information exchange clauses. I was immediately put through to their highest command and watched for days as they organized dozens of fleets from across their space into a single massive unit. I saw as the icons for ships and regiments descended upon the now fully developed, if still human-dominated shared colony and as one, launched for Stragi. It shames me to admit, for a time I doubted them. I worried this was no rescue, but another invasion. I prayed I had not doomed my people. I had not. In a cacophony of activity perhaps only outdone by the battle itself, the Atrium orchestrated the first true galactic human conflict. From my place in the rear, I watched representations of 100 micro-battles on 100 screens as they played out above Stragi. I saw the hesitation and initial retreat of the Imperial Navy after the arrival of the humans. For a time, I was taken to another room to convince my government to trust this human armada, even as human ships burned fighting the Sarnak. Returning to the war room as they called it, I watched the losses tally. Human warships then were nothing compared to the Sarnaks. I watched so many icons blink out, so many ship names move to disabled or destroyed. I could not comprehend the death I was witnessing. I still cannot, the lists of lost ships numbered in the hundreds, then thousands. But slowly, brilliantly, I watched the tide turn. I saw human ships draw fire so bigger Stragi guns could find targets. When they could not pierce shields, they boarded. When they could not withstand the fire, they rammed. I watched one unit, under Atrium command, draw fire from a Sarnak dreadnought, only to skip aside and let it impact a pursuing Sarnak frigate. In the end, we won the day. And from that day forward, we meant the alliance to all Stragi. The campaign to push out the Sarnak and retake our land was long and arduous. But at every battle, human and Stragi fought as one. New human ships with our most advanced weapons and Stragi ships under the strategic supervision of the Atrium and her support facilities drove the Sarnak back to their homeworld, back to the very mud they climbed out of. I was not there when 20 cycles later, the other two races of the Alliance, both separately and quietly, under siege, from the ever-sneaky floor, came forward and asked for the same assistance we had. I wish I was, their representatives were always arrogant pricks. From my retirement in the original joint colony, I watched the news feeds and imagined the events unfolding in the war room. Not a race in the galaxy lacks a word for allies now. Some groups have even sprung up independently, though none so great as the humans. Yes, to me, no matter what they say, or who joins it, our alliance will always belong to the humans. I returned 116 cycles ago to see Atrium. It is much bigger now to house the new representatives. The war room has been redone as well, with all the latest technology the humans have come up with. It was truly a sight to behold, as the now 26 races with fleets under Alliance command require a great deal of coordination. It was nearly as hectic as that day the Alliance was truly born in the skies above Stragi. I shudder to imagine what that room could do now. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.